Hey everyone, it's Dragon again. Back about a month ago when I shot my tour of Dragon's Lair, I showed off this shelf and I mentioned briefly that I built it myself and that I was going to go ahead and put a video up showing how I created that. And I figured tonight's a good a time as any to get through that and show you guys what I did. So while I was creating it, I took several pictures and I've picked out the best couple to kind of like highlight the process of what I did to get through building this. And I think you guys will enjoy it if you're looking to build something nice and custom for your house similar to this that you can show off your games on. So the first thing that I did was run out and get some semi-finished planks of wood that were a little bit longer than the width of the fireplace so that I could frame this up and do a test fit. And I took everything outside and I cut the planks to the width and height that I had measured on the fireplace, and I countersunk the screws on the edges and put together a quick frame to say, hey, this actually looks good, this works, this is what I want it to look like. And at this point I had decided that I wanted to emulate the IKEA style of a lower lip so that everything looked a little bit more professional, and you can see that in this first picture here. After that I took it back outside and put the rest of the shelves on. I made a little spreadsheet in order to tell me where to mount the rest of the shelves so that everything was just perfect, and I countersunk everything else. You can see that I'm using bits of wood scraps to prop up the shelf so that it doesn't get scratched on the cement floor outside. So after that I took it inside. You can see a little bit more of the countersunk screws on the corners here, and I did a quick test fit to make sure everything was still looking good, and I was satisfied with that. So the next weekend I came back at it and I got some Bondo and wood filler, and I Bondoed all of the holes that I had created countersinking, and I Bondoed all of the edges that weren't quite perfect. Some of the wood was a little bit bowed, some of it was a little bit misaligned, which is nothing that I couldn't fix in post-production basically, which is exactly what I did here. And you can see a little bit of a detail here of the edges where they meet, and I Bondoed all that together. It's a little bit bubbled up, but nothing that you can't fix when you sand, but this was to ensure that everything looked like one solid piece. So I took it back outside the next weekend and I sanded it down from the Bondo and made sure that everything looked nice and solid. Took it back inside after taking care of wood putting a little bit of the pieces that I missed with the Bondo, and this is what it looked like after doing that. I got it back inside, test fitting again, because I was really excited about the project, and I kept putting it in this right spot and going, oh man, this is so cool. But yeah, you can see a lot of the edges where I put wood putty in and Bondo, and you can see in some of the previous pictures that I also wood puttied and Bondoed some of the nastier knots that were in the wood so that everything came out nice and smooth. And the next weekend I took it back outside to get some final sanding, and I got a detail of the back here because I wanted to show off a little bit of what I did with the horizontal supports, which would make sure that since this shelf is pretty wide, I didn't want it to bow. And in this instance, it's going to keep all the weight properly taken care of and properly distributed to the side so that nothing ever bows over time, so that it doesn't end up looking really janky or really amateur. So I got that all sanded down, I got the Bondo and wood filler taken care of, I did a couple little touch-up things, and then I did my first coat of primer. And the primer is actually really important in this case because if you want your wood to have an even finish, you need to primer it. And the reason for that is the different grains of the wood will soak up the paint at different rates, and so painting and primering actually brings out the grain of the wood and causes it to be rougher than otherwise would look, even with sanding it. So I did a bit of sanding, I did some primer, did coats of primer and sanding back and forth, and then after I did a couple coats, I brought it back in for a couple days. And at this point I was posting pictures on Facebook and all my friends are like, oh, that's cool, you're done, everything looks great. And I'm like, no, actually, I just got it primered, I still need to paint it. But that was kind of fun because it felt like it was really coming together and people were really excited about the project. So over the next couple weeks I took it outside and I do another couple coats of paint. I got some semi-gloss paint and I was doing, oh boy, I think it was 400 grit then 1000 grit sandpaper in between coatings in order to make sure everything was perfect. I had a couple drips on my first couple passes through, and I took care of those with the sandpaper and then painted them again. And then I painted the backs and put them on after I was done, and you can see here the shelf basically in a completed state. One thing that I didn't think about was the way the backs would look from the side, and I ended up with some really nasty corners, but I was able to fix that with some vinyl iron-on edging, which was saving grace of the project. And so you can see here the shelf, all its glory. I've got it final test fit with the back on and everything. And you can see the nice semi-gloss sheen here, and it looking really good. So after that, I decided I was going to decorate it. So I got my copy of ET, threw it on there, and everything is done, right? Well, no, not really. I was joking around. I put that back on the shelf, and I grabbed all my NES games, and I had my girlfriend sit down and help me alphabetize them, because I'd gotten so many games since last time that I didn't have them in alphabetical order. And the final picture that I have here is everything put on except for the side tapestries that I show you in the video before and afterwards. And that's basically it. So it wasn't that hard. It took me a couple months because I only had the weekends to work and I wanted to be really patient and really slow, but I think the final product was really cool. So that's basically it. It wasn't actually that hard to put this together. It just took a little bit of time and effort over a couple weekends. And while it got a little tedious at the end when I was painting it, I'd say overall it was pretty fun. And the end result is, I would say, awesome. I can show off my NES collection, which was running out of space. I can show off some of the handhelds that I had tucked into corners. And it looks much, much better than the fireplace that was there before it. And it really gives a nice personality to this corner. If you're curious about what you're going to do with your collection, or if you feel like, hey, maybe I could go ahead and give this a shot, I encourage you, go ahead and try it. It's really not that bad. It just takes some patience, and I think you'll enjoy the results. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click subscribe and have a look at my channel and see what other stuff I've got. I'm hoping to continue putting up videos kind of like this or showing off my collection in the future. And yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments.